Why is it so hard to quit smoking? I never started the habit, but I know a lot of people that did smoke. I was raised around it. Pretty much my entire family did, all my friends did, and many of them struggle to quit. And I know it's probably one of the hardest things for people to actually accomplish. So the question is, why is it so difficult? A lot of people know pretty much everybody knows the negative health effects at this point. And there's negative social effects, it's expensive, there's a lot of reasons to quit smoking, but it's just really freaking hard for a lot of people. And the reason is there's two main reasons why quitting smoking is so difficult. The one is obviously the chemical addiction that people have to nicotine. So like with any drug, even coffee, or any other harder drug, there starts a chemical dependence in the bloodstream and in the brain and body, where your body starts kind of becoming addicted or dependent on this chemical. There's also a pleasurable effect with this. That's why people generally smoke, is because it gives you kind of a stimulating effect. So there is a benefit to the actual act if it's not, it's obviously harmful. But the chemical dependency is actually one of the easier things to get rid of. That probably only lasts, weeks to maybe up to a couple of months or so in a human, because eventually that dependency will go away once your red blood cell count is turned over, and like those receptors that have been used to getting that stimulus have kind of gotten back to normal. But obviously people struggle to quit smoking for months and years because of the second reason, which is actually the habit of smoking. And this is the hardest thing to get past, because outside of the chemical dependency, smoking is a habituated pattern, and it usually is grouped with other very common patterns like eating, or having morning coffee, or first thing when you wake up, or hanging out with friends. So the act of smoking is actually also grouped with other habituated patterns that you're going to have throughout a life. So even if you quit smoking and you no longer have that thing around you, you still are having all of these other events in your life that you used to do with smoking. So your brain still has that pattern engraved. So let's say, you're out to dinner and you're used to, after a really good meal, having a cigarette. Your brain is used to those two things linked together. So after you have a really good meal, your brain's like, all right, where's that cigarette? That usually comes right after it. And it's actually the anticipation of the cigarette that's kind of pleasurable for us to feel. It's like that with any kind of pleasurable act, like dessert. It's really the act, you feel the best when they bring that dessert to the table. Right before you're about to dig in is actually where you're maximally stimulated by that dessert. Once you have that first bite, it's actually not as exciting anymore, at least as far in terms of a brain level. So the fact that the act of smoking is so habituated with other behaviors that don't go away, you never really lose that reward loop. And smoking creates a reward loop in your brain. So that's why people for years will struggle, because after all of these different acts that you're used to having a cigarette with, you're going to continue to do them. So that's like a little reminder in your brain, like, hey, we used to have a cigarette here. Hey, we used to have a cigarette here. So you get that impulse. And some people, kind of give into it. It's also the hardest when you drink alcohol. And there's actually a chemical reason for this. Apparently, nicotine and alcohol have kind of a synthesizing effect. So they've done studies, and apparently the nicotine actually helps balance out the effects of alcohol, so that people can kind of ride a comfortable buzz a little bit longer when they're smoking. And also, obviously, when you're drinking, your inhibitions are lowered, so you're more likely to act on impulses. So if your impulse is to have a cigarette all of a sudden, it's going to be a lot harder to not do that. So those are the two main reasons that smoking is so damn difficult to quit. But there is different ways of quitting out there. And I know some people, sometimes they just make a decision in their life and they're like, you know what, I'm not going to do it. And they never pick up another cigarette in their life. So if you're one of those people that are trying to quit smoking, just know that it's very difficult, extremely difficult for everybody. So you're not alone. Seek help if you need to, but it's probably worth the effort. All right, that's all I got for this one. See you in the next video.